Hello everybody, welcome back to 2C TV. I'm Maya 2C and this is your latest update from British politics. Two-tier policing as a problem in this country is escalating despite the fact that it's been exposed many times over the last few months by this channel and many others around the country, in fact around the world, including by Elon Musk and many other influential figures globally speaking. On this show we're going to be giving you guys the latest example, which is one of the most obvious and vile examples of two-tier policing, but also many other issues with the London Metropolitan Police and what happened to one of our freedom fighters. This is about Niyak Ghorbani, the Iranian, anti-Islamist Iranian who's become infamous for holding a certain sign over the last few months on the streets of London. Before we start, before we give you guys all the videos and everything, evidence that we have, please support this channel to stay independent. Otherwise, I'm going to go sell out by not just subscribing, but also joining 2C TV Plus by going on 2ctvplus.tv to get access to our premium shows, documentaries, and the ability to chat with me and other fellow far-right thugs directly. Let's give you guys the information that we have. Is the police in London pro-Islamist? This is about Niyak Ghorbani, the one on the right. A lot of you are already familiar with this name. He is originally from Iran. He escaped Iran as a political refugee because he was against Islamism. He's come to this country as a guest and he calls himself a guest. He appreciates the values. He flies the Union flags. He tries his best to be a good guest and to integrate. And he's defending the values of his new current home as a guest by fighting against Islamism, by trying to warn people in this country about the threats that ruined his original country, Iran, after the Islamic occupiers took control in 1979. He became infamous almost a year ago after the 7th of October attack in Israel by holding this sign that Hxmas are terrorists, which is a legal sign because in this country, this organization is banned. He's been arrested many times. In fact, I always make this joke that Niyak Ghorbani, who was born in Iran, has been arrested by the London Metropolitan Police more than he was arrested by the morality police in the Islamic Republic of Iran. So he thought he would come here, he'll have freedom, but apparently not. Let's go to this video that we have. 5 Pillars actually posted this proudly saying, yes, he was trying to stop the Islamist march, well, the pro-Palestinian march. He was doing a counter-protest, which is legal. You're allowed to do it. The other side do it all the time. He was arrested. But then the Metropolitan Police came out. This happened this weekend, by the way. The Metropolitan Police came out with vile allegations and lies about Niyak and his friend Mark and others who were also basically there and got arrested as well. Let's quickly go to the evidence, the initial video, because not only they were arrested beforehand, the Islamists steal their Union flag. The police don't do anything about it.
Just continue.
Guys, please, come on! Please keep fighting!
No! I'm not asking why you put that! I'm not asking! There's only one of them! When I know that why you handcuff me? Why you handcuff me?
So that's not actually the example of the two-tier policing, because I'm going to show you the problem with two-tier policing. Well, when number one, we had the first example, which was when the so-called pro-Palestinians stole their union flag. The police looked at it, they just saw, they didn't do anything about it. But you might say, well, yes, they were in front of the march, they wanted to move them. It's the overreaction from the police that's the problem. We've seen so many times when the counter-protesters, the Jews and the Christians in London do counter-protesting, before anything kicks off, the police put them in cages and in pens, and they say you have to stay behind a barrier. If you move an inch, we will arrest you. Whereas the Islamists could just walk wherever they want. That's not really the biggest thing. Niyak Ghorbani himself said yesterday, despite having court permission to attend a pro-Palestinian rally, or Hxmas rally, with a sign that said they are terrorists, my friend Mark and I were brutally arrested by the police. The police were entirely focused on removing us and hiding our sign, while several people physically assaulted me right in front of them. Yet they showed no reaction and instead arrested us. Nobody else from the other side got arrested. Equal treatment will help. Niyak says the reason given for our arrest was breaching the peace and carrying the sign. However, after some coordination by the officer who had arrested me, before even arriving at custody and while still at the police station, the arresting officer declared that I was free to go. But now my arrest was supposedly for injuring the shoulder of a police officer. I am now facing new charges being fabricated against me. Ultimately, with these restrictions, I was released at 5:45 a.m. this morning, that's Sunday, today, with limited freedom. Now, the allegation came because these are the same allegations they used against people like Tommy Robinson, that, no, you were the one assaulting. Luckily, Niyak was also wearing a body cam, a GoPro camera, and there is enough evidence that there was no attack from his side or Mark, his friend, either. Because the police said this: during the pro-Palestine march, I love what they call it, yesterday, officers intervened to prevent a breach of the peace by just simply standing there, involving two opposing groups. The two counter-protesters were arrested, that's Mark and Niyak, on suspicion of breach of the peace and assaulting police officers. Officers continue to investigate. Assaulting police officers, right? This is where it gets weird. Because Niyak says, release the video of our so-called attack on the police officer. Otherwise, you and your entire system are liars and supporters of Hxmas. They are not releasing any video because there is no such thing. There is no video about that. This is the bail condition, by the way, that Niyak also posted. Conditions. Condition number one. Details the condition not to enter the London Borough of Westminster on any date where a Palestinian protest, it says protect, by the way, they can't even spell, and the Metropolitan Police, protest is taking place. Condition number two, not to attend any Palestinian protest, which is basically the same thing. Number three, not to contact directly or indirectly any co-defendants, obviously Mark, but obviously the other person. So there are no conditions for the other side. When the Jews in London complain that our shops, our synagogues, and our local communities get intimidated almost every weekend and almost every day, there's no protection for the London Jews or Christians or anybody else basically in this situation. It escalates. This is the example of two-tier policing. On the same day, this weekend in London, when we had this issue, on the left you have Niyak and Mark and others, the counter-protesters, flying the Union flag and the sign that says Hxmas are terrorists. That's a bad thing, apparently, according to the police. The one on the right, it says, Western democracy is a choice between red and blue, as in Tory and Labour, both saying controlled by the Jews. You got the Star of David saying, are you getting it? They are basically saying the Jews are controlling Tory or Labour, right? There are many other issues with Tories and Labour, with the uni-party system, which are controlled by, generally speaking, those in favour of control-freak global consensus idiots. But saying that generally the Jews are controlling it, that is, of course, not just an allegation, but let's just hypothetically say whether it's true or not. Why is it? Because the sign on the left is true, Hxmas are terrorists, right? Let's just hypothetically say the sign on the right is also correct. But why is it that the one on the left is okay? It's not okay, but the one on the right is okay. They didn't get arrested. the ones that were claiming that the Jews are controlling the political parties. That is a two-tier system. Campaign Against Anti-Semitism said 2 photographs. Who do you think was arrested by Sir Mark Rowley's Metropolitan Police and thrown into cells overnight, then released the next morning with a ban on attending any more protests? The double standards are clear to see. Campaign Against Anti-Semitism continues to provide free legal defense to those improperly arrested whilst standing up to anti-Semitism. It comes at significant cost, but it is the least that we can do for those who stand with Jews amid this outpouring of anti-Semitism. The question is, why is it necessary? Then again, Niyak hit back at the police saying, release the video, release the video, release the video, hashtag lies for Hxmas, Metropolitan Police. They're not releasing a video because there's no such thing as a video of any assault happening by Mark or Niyak. So far, there is no evidence. Let's just say there might be a video eventually being released, but they're not releasing any video showing any assault. Let's go to the video because Niyak Ghorbani himself and others around him had body cams, GoPro cams, and just mobile phones who were filming this. Let's go to that video as well.
No, brother, shut up. Right? Don't tell me to do it. Shut up. Don't tell me to do it. Ghorbani is being detained by November Alpha officers and the PLT outside the Park Lane Hotel. Hey! Leave me alone! Don't touch me!
That's it now. Did you see the reaction from the other side? The intimidation, and that's just part of it, by the way. If you were there in person, and everybody who's staying there, it's not just the insults or words, but they were so aggressive that if there were not enough police officers there, the Islamist side could have actually attacked them again, because obviously they targeted them earlier, they stole the Union flag, the police saw it, they didn't do anything about it. It's okay for the other side to intimidate, but standing up to the intimidation is a taboo. And how many times do we have to show these examples for somebody in the establishment to say, oh, okay, yes, we must have to do something about it. And it's ironic because those who are claiming that the system and the establishment are being controlled by the Jews, that they're not really doing a good job, the Jews who are controlling the establishment, because everything's going against the Jews. The BBC, of course, yesterday, and of course we reported on 2CTV this morning, were exposed that they have broken their own guidelines, their own impartiality guidelines and bias by about 1,500 times, over 1,500 times since the 7th of October. The BBC seems to be not controlled well by the Jews. The Labour Party, obviously going against the Jewish nation, the Jews are not controlling that well. The Tories are completely silent on this. So it seems like the Jews controlling the Tories are not really doing a good job either. The police, apparently controlled by the Jews, keep arresting the Jews and the anti-Islamists. So what are the Jews doing if they're in charge, if they're controlling the whole thing? Apparently the Jews are controlling the United Nations that goes against Israel. The Jews control the ICC and the ICJ, who makes rulings against Israel. So how are the Jews actually controlling the establishment? If they are not doing a good job, they are terrible. Bring back somebody who's competent at controlling the world, because everything is going against them. And it's not just like going against Israel, it's against random ordinary Jews who might not even be in favor of Netanyahu's government, but the local shops across Europe, from Germany to the UK, they get targeted by Islamists. Nobody's there to protect them. And I'm not just talking about to defend the Jews, it's also anybody right now that is not an Islamist. This is the problem. If a mosque and it even gets one person outside shouting at the building, there will be outrage. But if a church right now, tomorrow, in London gets targeted by a massive mob, not much really is mentioned about it in the media. We've had it. The synagogue near Hyde Park in central London, that was obviously targeted by a massive group a couple of times over the last few months. No mention by Sky News or BBC News. So this is the problem that we have, is two-tier everything, two-tier policing, two-tier media, two-tier policies by the government, two-tier justice system, and the whole thing is going to come crashing down unless somebody comes out and says, we need to do an actual reset, not some sort of great reset like Uncle Klaus, but an actual reform of the system. That's why a lot of people are saying we're just going to have to wait for President Trump to return to actually lead America, and obviously we will be following America, hopefully. But one of the few times that following America might not be a bad idea. Anyway, let's see what you guys are saying. Super chats. Paul Claude, thank you very much for your super chats, saying I have counter protested with Niyak and Mark, the two guys who were arrested, gone into the pro-Palestinian crowd with these signs. The police should be arresting the people who attack us and the signs, saying standing against terrorism instead, especially those who continue to do it. Stephen says, defund the BBC. We have another comment saying, please pass on my support to him, as in Niyak, stay strong, brother. Thank you very much. I shall let him know. And another person, never too late, says that it's Mark Rowley. The use of his title is a mark of respect. He is not deserving of respect. Obviously, that's referring to Mark Rowley's knighthood. Angela says, disgusting, police. I stand with Israel. It's not even just Israel, it's just ordinary Londoners who simply want to stand against Islamism, and they're not even allowed anymore. Three-tier Keir. Jews have no rights. My niece's husband had a butcher shop in London that was vandalized multiple times. The police said they can't arrest the criminals even though they know who they are. I mean, I've used my example so many times. It's just basic lack of policing and too much bureaucracy and laziness. When once somebody stole my Apple AirPods, and because it was connected to my iPhone, I could see where it is. And I called the police and I said, I can show you exactly. I know which house it's in right now. Can you go pick it up, please? They said, no, we're not allowed to. And then they also warned me. They said, if you knock on their door, we will arrest you. Not the actual thief, but they will arrest me. Everything is wrong about the structure of policing, and the whole guidelines need a reform. It's not just about the individuals, it's the system itself. Avalon Jewish says that there are not enough Jews left in the world to even control it. The population is going down. So bad. Go West Media, thank you for your super chat support. What's going on? Fake News says that the problem is each and every one of the police and MPs are all as scared of Islam. All as bags. Scared in case they start something. If fear shouldn't come into it. Do your jobs. You all signed up for it. That's a good advice. Nobody forced you to get into policing or politics. If you do it, do your job. What's going on? AFC Manuka says, looking forward to meeting you at the strip club on a Tuesday evening. It's not a strip club. For the record, this is referring to our upcoming 2CTV live rally in London on Tuesday night. I think it's at 5:30 p.m. We have already emailed you guys about the venue, and it is not a strip club, technically. Technically not a strip club. But don't publicize the venue, by the way. Obviously, we have to keep it private in case the Hxmas supporters find where we are, and Antifa. But there have been a couple of other people who bought tickets recently, so unfortunately it's already sold out. But we'll send the email reminder again. But also you have to be 18 because they will be checking IDs at the door. It's not a strip club, but they will be checking IDs. Oh no. Jane says, look at those people wearing a police uniform. Police uniform. A uniform that brave people used to wear with pride and the public used to look up to. Not sure what the police get paid for anymore. I think a lot of, and I've spoken to some, again, there are still some good police officers. A lot of them have resigned already, but I still have a couple of friends who are good police officers, and they're the ones complaining about the others and the system. But they also say, there's still a few of them who actually get into the job because of the pride, because of that duty. But they actually admit a lot of their colleagues They just see it as a job. And by the way, the same problem that we've had over the last few decades in the West with teaching as a profession. Nobody gets into teaching to make money. It's about compassion. You have to have that sort of personality. You have to want it. But back in the day, people would get into teaching proactively. They know, with passion. And some make it, some don't make it. It's not easy. You know, the money is bad. The conditions could be bad, especially in state schools. We get it. But, and I personally also know a number of people who became teachers, same as the police officers that my friends, other police officers say, because they just didn't have anything else. They're like, oh, someone told me I should be a teacher, or someone told me I should be a police officer. There's a job going. Let me apply for it. And they just see it as a job. And that's the problem. It's not just a job. You have to have that passion and pride and sense of duty, because it's going to come with a lot of obstacles and a lot of problems. First, you have to have that personality. Secondly, you choose to do it. If you become a teacher or if you become a police officer, you have to have that thick skin, but also you can't just keep complaining. Someone said I've got Maya on a 1.5 speed. That will be way too fast considering the way I speak all the time. It's not a good idea. And he says, Maya, you're smiling too much. Strip club. It's not a strip club, technically. Oh, thank you, Debbie Todd, for your super chat. You have to laugh in these situations. It's too much doom and gloom. Julia as well says, but you can break a policewoman's nose and attack armed police and not have any charges against you. This refers to, of course, the Manchester airport incident. Molly says, my nephew is a Met police officer, and he says it all comes from above, Mark Rowley, and there is nothing that they can do about any of this two-tier policing. I agree. Anyway, this was the latest information on what's happened this weekend in London at the pro-Islamist march. Thanks for all the support. If you want to support us to stay independent, feel free to join 2CTV Plus by going on 2ctvplus.tv and become a member and get access to our premium shows, documentaries, and the ability to chat with me directly if you want to, obviously. You could also talk to other far-right thugs in the chat forum. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maya 2C, and we are the media.